Welcome back, Senator. And what do you think of this?
Well, look, I think James Comey was a bad head of the FBI. I think he wanted to be J. Edgar Hoover. I think when Donald Trump came in, I think he waged war against President Trump from the very first day the president came into office in his first term. You know, I wrote an entire book called Justice Corrupted, How the Left Has Weaponized Our Legal System, that laid out exactly how the deep state, and James Comey was Exhibit A of the deep state, actively tried to undermine the president, to overthrow the president. They were angry at the American people for electing him. And I do think in hindsight, I think the president would tell you it was a mistake that he did not fire James Comey on January 20th, 2017. I think history would have been very different if Comey had been relieved of duty the very first day of the Trump presidency.
Can't believe they started that whole Russia thing about firing. It was instigated by the termination. They were investigating Trump for firing the FBI director. But on this thing, 86-47, I mean, I'm sorry. And you heard some prominent people for years saying Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to American democracy. Yeah. Dick Cheney said the #1 danger to the republic ever. They seem to have given themselves the moral and legal justification. It's nonsense, but to do something horrible to President Trump. Is this a violation of the law, as you see it, putting a message out there in public like that?
You know, look, we'll have to examine the full details and the context in which it was given, but there's no doubt that much of the deep state, including James Comey, hated Donald Trump, and they acted to undermine him. They acted to stop and frustrate the agenda that he was elected to implement. And there's also no doubt that the extreme rhetoric we see from the left contributes to this atmosphere of violence, to the threats. You know, President Trump faced multiple assassination attempts, including obviously being shot by a would-be assassin in Butler, Pennsylvania. I got to say, by the way, Greg, I've never seen a moment of heroism quite like when the president, after being shot, comes up and has his fist in the air, is saying, "Fight, fight, fight." That was, if you were not inspired by that, then I don't understand how you're wired, because that was amazing to see.
It really was. But actually, on that note, Senator, sometimes I feel like, let's face it, that was a net plus, right? For President Trump politically. Everybody saw his bravery under fire. We also saw the incompetence of certain aspects of the government. And I feel like we don't have all the answers. And quite frankly, some of the questions haven't even been asked. Now, you were brilliant in your cross-examination.
Well, and by the way, look, you walk into the Oval Office, and right outside the Oval Office, #1, the picture right outside the door of the Oval Office is the president's mugshot, because that was the weaponization of the legal system where the Democrats were trying to stop the voters from reelecting him. That failed. And then right outside that is a painting of him standing with his fist in the air, and it's got lots of blood going down his face. And it's a powerful, like those two combinations, when you're in the White House going into the Oval, those two, that picture and that painting, they tell a story.
They certainly do. But we know that there are efforts underway to hold the rogue prosecutors accountable for what they did, and a lot of other people were. But I'm concerned that not enough has been done regarding the assassination attempts. And you were fantastic in cross-examining Ron Rowe. I saw it. We all saw it. Who did all these bureaucratic tricks to deflect. He was, we have these things, we call them indignant and bureaucratic, right? That's the indignation. He was very good at that.
Yes.
Sir, I am very concerned that there are so many aspects about Butler, Pennsylvania, and the questions haven't even been asked. There was a great committee hearing, but it was limited, and I feel like we need something more. A Warren-type commission thing. We know that they weren't successful, but we need something else.
Well, I'll tell you, Greg, what I'm urging the Trump administration, and I've met with all the cabinet members, when each of them was coming through to be confirmed. I've met with many of the sub-cabinet members, and I've said, listen, I would recommend radical transparency. Make things public. Answer the questions for the public.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.